Hello everyone, I am back with another tropical update. It's about 5 o'clock in the evening on September the 10th. And of course, all eyes are on Florence. But we do have more activity in the Atlantic to watch. We got Hurricane Isaac and then we got Hurricane Helene out there to watch. But right now the main focus is Florence, a monster Category 4 hurricane with winds of 130 miles per hour max sustained. Moving in a west motion and should have more northwest component as we go forward. But Florence is out there, and of course we're keeping a very close eye on it. Here is the cone of uncertainty from the Hurricane Center. You can see a lot of the South Carolina coastline and then up through the North Carolina coastline is in the cone of uncertainty. So really, you could have a landfall anywhere in that area, right? You could have it further down on South Carolina coastline, or it could be further to the northeast. Now, the center of this cone is the most likely path, and it's got it right around North Carolina, South Carolina border, around Wilmington area. Looks to be about the most likely place of landfall, and they've got it as a major hurricane making landfall. That's terrible. It could be a Category 4 as well when it's making landfall. And it's going to be on, let's see, 2 p.m. Thursday. It's just off the coast, so it's going to be maybe Thursday, later in the day Thursday maybe, for what we're talking about with the landfall. And then it hits, moves inwards. It weakens, of course, but here's a big problem. It looks like it might stall out. That's very bad news. That means way more rain, right? A lot more rain to be associated with the impact than because of the possible stalling out. That's really, really bad. So we're going to keep taking a look at that. But this looks like, Thursday and Friday we could be feeling impacts in much of the southeast and mid-Atlantic, and maybe even longer. It depends on where you are, but probably longer as well as it stalls out. So, that's just really not looking good. Let's take a look at the models here. Okay. Let's take a look. What was I going to show you? Well, I can find it. I got so many tabs open, I'm just like trying to find it right now. Jesus, where did I put it? Okay, here it is. Let's take a look at the Eurocontrol. The last Eurocontrol had the hurricane making landfall, about the North Carolina, South Carolina border, Wilmington area. That was the Eurocontrol. That's pretty much about the Wilmington area making landfall, and then it moves inward. And then the GFS was further northeast. It had off the Outer Banks. I really don't think it's going to go that far north, but it is a possibility. But it had it kind of meandering up there and then moving into North Carolina, and then kind of meandering in the region. Okay, let's take a look at CMC. CMC was, I think, similar to that. Yeah, it was up there in the Outer Banks. So that is a viable option. But I'm going to say that Euro usually has a lot more skill. Now, the replacement GPS, the FV3, I'm trying to back up. Okay, so that one kind of, just take a minute to load. That one had like a landfall around North Carolina, South Carolina border, Wilmington area as well, and then it meanders in the region. Okay, so let's take a look at the hurricane model HWRF. We'll look at that. Okay, let's take a look at what that's saying. That one had the landfall, maybe Wilmington area, southeast North Carolina pretty much, right? So that was the HWRF. And then I want to show you the Euro ensembles, which I did have up here. There they are. Now this one's interesting because there's still a spread on the Euro ensembles. But of course, looking at this, we can tell, okay, it's going to be somewhere on the Carolinas coast. It's making landfall somewhere in South Carolina or North Carolina. Now, the mean of this is probably right around Wilmington, North Carolina, South Carolina border, right? So I think the information really points to a like southeast North Carolina, or maybe um, yeah, like a southeast North Carolina deal for landfall, or on the upper South Carolina coast. I really think it points to around the North Carolina South Carolina border, probably Wilmington. So I think that's basically where we're trying to hone in on. I think that might be the most likely area of landfall. But remember, impacts will extend well away from the center. So even if it hits Wilmington, you're still talking about impacts further down on the South Carolina coast, right? And you're still talking about impacts well inland. So the exact track, of course, will help us determine where the highest winds are, and it will help us determine where the areas of the heavier rain are, but there's still going to be impacts well away from the center. So everybody in the region, everybody in the Carolinas and, Virginia, everybody should be preparing. If you're on the coast, you should prepare for direct landfall in case you get one. And then, of course, everybody should be preparing. I know they got mandatory evacuations along North and South Carolina coastlines. And people inland should be also preparing for the different impacts as well that are expected from the system. Alright, so I live in the Columbia, South Carolina area, and for my friends and family, I was going to talk a little bit about what this might mean for us in the Columbia, South Carolina area. Now, what we see is going to be determined by the exact strength. Strength too, but really primarily, what's going to okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here. Okay, let me try this again. So, what we see in Columbia, South Carolina will be determined by the exact strength and track of the storm, and also the size of the storm, the size of the wind fields. So all that needs to be monitored for us. But right now, Columbia, South Carolina has about a 40 or 50% chance of tropical storm winds. Now that's like 39 to 73 miles per hour, right? So that's still enough to cause problems. I will say we've seen a lot of problems in recent tropical systems that caused tropical storm winds for us. We saw a lot of problems. That's enough to cause power outages, down trees, those kinds of things. Even if you just get gusts in that range, so you don't necessarily need the hurricane winds to cause a lot of problems. The tropical storm winds will cause problems for you as well. So if we get like the Wilmington landfall track, we could still see tropical storm winds or at least gusts down here. It just, again, depends on the size of the wind field, but I would still say it's possible. Now, of course, the chance of that will go up if it's a further south landfall. You would see more of the wind or more of the rain in Columbia, South Carolina if it lands somewhere further down the South Carolina coast instead. Like I know if it were to hit like Charleston or something like that nearby, if it were to take that route and it came up over us, we could even see hurricane winds in the Midlands of South Carolina. But that would be if it made a further southwest landfall, say Charleston or somewhere in that general area. That could happen, but I do think the Wilmington track is more probable. And with that kind of track, I still think tropical storm winds could be possible, or at least gust. It may or may not happen. It just depends on a lot of things. The track and the wind field sizes, we'll have more idea on that as we get closer. Exactly how far from the center does the tropical storm winds go? We'll have to watch that, but that is certainly a possibility, and you should prepare for power outages in Columbia and many of these inland areas as well. Now, as far as the rain for Columbia, South Carolina, if it takes this Wilmington track, most of the rain looks to be to our northeast. We're going to get maybe some rain from it, but it ain't going to be a whole lot, and most of it stays to our northeast, as you can see on this map here. But keep in mind, this area of most intense rainfall in these purple colors could shift depending on the track. When the Euro was further south earlier today, And when that happened, we saw the shield was like down here, and it was kind of close to Columbia, and Columbia got a lot more rain with that, and there would be more flooding concern in that case. But with this latest track, the heaviest rain is to our northeast. And you can see these bright purple colors. I mean, you're getting 15 plus inches of rain, and I have seen some outputs go like 20 to 30 inches plus on whoever ends up getting the most intense rain. So that is a very, very disastrous situation, especially in these areas up here in North Carolina and Virginia. If it sets up there, that is very bad because they have saturated soils up and through this region here. And I saw somewhere where Wilmington's like having the wettest year on record, or I think I saw that somewhere already. And now you gotta deal with this. So that is, I just don't even know, that is just very hard to think about. That is very bad. But again, this intense rainfall will shift to the southwest or northeast depending on exactly where the storm goes. So I wouldn't say Columbia is completely out of the woods from seeing something like that, because that could happen if it went a little bit further south. But with the current track, I would say that most of the rain would be to our northeast. So the bottom line for Columbia is I would prepare for some impact. I would prepare for possibility of power outages because it is possible we'll have tropical storm winds, and it is possible the intense rain could come back further south again. So it's just something to keep a track on. And when we got a chance of tropical storm winds, and we might miss most of the rain, or it might shift again south. So we'll have to keep a track on that and see where that heaviest rain shield sets up. But of course, with the current track, I think tropical storm winds could still make it, but the rain, most of the wind and rain would be to our northeast. Okay, with that kind of track. But like I said, if it goes further south again, then the impacts will go up. You'll see more wind and rain in Columbia if it goes to the further south. So there's a lot to keep track on. Okay, we'll have to keep tabs on all of this. But I'm gonna do a recap here. I think the most likely area of landfall is going to be right there around North Carolina, South Carolina border, around Wilmington. That might change, but that's the most likely area. But it really could be anywhere on the Carolinas, and that's going to cause catastrophic impact throughout the southeast and also up into the Virginias. That's going to cause extreme flooding, really bad winds, especially on the coast where it hits. You're talking about possibly Category 4 winds. So that is disastrous. Okay, so we're still gonna fine tune where this is gonna go. We're gonna keep a track on it. Okay, because it could still change. A lot still could change with this. Okay, but you're looking at extreme flooding and winds even well inland with this system. It just looks. I just hope everybody is taking the threat seriously and doing what they can. Okay. But the exact impact you see in your area will depend on the track of the system and the size of it and intensity and where it stalls out at, and then what happens after it stalls out. After it stalls out, what kind of meandering motion does it make? That could influence who's going to see rain and who's going to see the rain for the longest and those kinds of things. Because whether it meanders back down southward, okay, then the rain more, then we might see more rain in Columbia if it did that. So there's just a lot on the table here, a lot of different scenarios. But this is like the worst storm to hit the Carolinas since Hurricane Hugo in 1989, which hit as a Category 4. And this is on par with that. This is on par with Hazel and Gracie. Hazel and Gracie were Category 4s when they hit the Carolinas, and they did so in the 1950s. The last major hurricane to hit the Carolinas, Category 3 status, was Fran in 1996. So this is a relatively uncommon thing to see a Category 4 make landfall this far north into the Carolinas. Is a big deal. This is just... I just pray for everyone. I hope everybody's going to be alright. I hope everybody is heeding the warnings and doing what they can to prepare for this system. But the exact impacts in your area will be determined by the track of the storm. And like I said, I'll say for Columbia one more time. It depends on the track and size and intensity of the storm. I could see tropical storm winds. I really can. There's a 50% chance of tropical storm winds. The closer the center is to us, the higher the chance of that. Okay? So we could definitely see some wind that could bring down trees and power lines. And then, of course, with the rain, most of the rain might stay to the northeast if the storm is further northeast. Okay? But then we have to watch how it meanders and if it could bring more rain back down. And then we have to watch any possible southern movements in the track again. Because if it comes further south, well, then we'll get more rain if it makes the landfall further south. So definitely a lot up in the air, and I just want everybody to be safe and just remain calm. You need just remain calm and prepare, okay? And I'll try to do some more updates later. Thanks for tuning in.